Everyone is speaking out about this as we have multiple new Lakers update as it pertains to a couple of key players, but not only updates, there is a huge concern rising surrounding one key player. We're going to break that down as well as discuss some wild comments from LeBron James today that has fans fired up. Stay tuned for all that in this episode, but before we get into it, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, it's the place to be for daily Lakers content. Your guys' support has been unbelievable. If you're a part of that 90% who aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And thank you guys again for your continued support over here. Also, bear with the setup. I am currently traveling, so for the next few days, bear with the setup. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to go over today. And man, oh man, has it been an interesting day. Not only do we have LeBron James come on the Pat McAfee show and make some interesting comments, which we'll dive into. The Lakers, of course, play tonight, and we have a bunch of new updates as it pertains to that game. And let's start with the injury report. And, of course, we'll dive into some other things as well. So, Rui Hachimura and LeBron are both probable. Maxi Kleber is out. And Bronny James, who was with the South Bay Lakers, has now officially been called up from the South Bay Lakers for tonight's game following a 39-point performance in his last one. So, there's a bunch of different updates to go over today. Obviously, a couple games ago, for Bronny James in the 39-point game. You can see here, we'll start with this. They've recalled Bronny James. Hopefully, honestly, he has a good chance to, not make the rotation this year, but next year really make the rotation. But the focus on today is going to be Rui Hachimura and LeBron James a little bit later. Now, Rui Hachimura is probable, but there is a big question mark that has risen surrounding Rui Hachimura. And we know that following his return, he came out and said that his knee is 70 to 80% healthy, and he doesn't think that it will ever reach 100% again this season. And this was the initial, report, and I covered it here on the channel, all these different things. The Lakers have a much bigger question to answer as it pertains to Rui Hachimura and the playoff run. It's not necessarily about, whether he's going to be available, but it's about this right here, how healthy he actually is. Because everyone is starting to speak out and realize that Rui Hachimura has not been the same player since returning that he was prior to the start of the season. And that's obviously to be expected. He missed a ton of time. But the problem now is he is very clearly probably a little bit lower than 70% healthy. And there's been a lot of fans out there, been a lot of reporters saying, hey, should the Lakers just rest him, let him be, don't, push it too much and just let him rest. And there is something to be said about that. And that's something now that has become very interesting. And Jovan Buha came out and said some very interesting points I wanted to bring up here. And it kind of acknowledges the fact that everyone's starting to speak out about this issue. After nearly a month with a knee injury, Hachimura acknowledged that he may not be fully healthy until the offseason, including leading the Lakers to manage his minutes carefully. The Rui thing could be a bit of an issue for them in the long term. What if he just can't quite get back to being who he was? He was such a pivotal player and such a pivotal piece. And this is very interesting because not only was he an important piece, like Jovan Buha says, we know whether you're a diehard Lakers fan, like myself and others, or if you're just a casual Lakers fan, whatever it ends up being, Rui Hachimura this season was having the best season of his career. But not only that, since Luka Doncic got traded over, he was banging corner threes at a fantastic clip. He was being that guy who could go out every single game and give them a spark of offense when needed. And yes, you have Dorian Finney-Smith, who's been in the starting rotation even since Rui's return for the most part, and has been a guy that JJ Redick trusts. Rui Hachimura provides a completely different look. Rui gives you offensive prowess. He gives you an ability to score off the ball, score off the ball, but of course score off the dribble as well. He has his pull-up midi, he has his corner threes. And now to see him come back and not be 100% healthy, but not only 100% healthy, he has looked quite, I don't want to say bad, but he really hasn't looked good. And it makes the biggest question mark going forward for this team and the playoffs, this Rui Hachimura situation. You can see this here in his first game back with the Bulls. He stated how he felt 70 to 80%. My knee's going to be like this for a while. I think I can't really get back to 100% right away. I need to rest for a long time to return to normal. And this is fourth Lakers offensive option and an important piece to their defensive schemes. He's averaging 13, 5, and 1.4 assists a game while shooting 40% from three. Three-point shooting is what he's going to need. And in the past couple of losses, Chicago and Orlando, he's only scored 5 points in each of the losses. Now, I'm not going to ring the alarm bells yet. We know once you come back from an injury, it always naturally takes, especially for role players, a little bit of time to get acclimated. The problem is the fact that he said he's not 100%, and you can see that. And not only offensively, but these knee injuries are not something to take lightly, and defensively as well is going to be something that we're going to have to see how he holds up in the playoffs, because like Jovan Buha said, it is going to be a long-term, concern And by long term, I mean, not only next season, depending how the offseason goes, all these different things, but the rest of this regular season into the playoffs, not just, of course, getting that whatever seed, the Lakers, the 2 seed, which is probably a little bit out of reach now, depending on what it is. Again, they moved down to the 5th seed and then back to the 4th seed. Everything's juggling around. And Jovan came out to say that honestly might be my biggest concern right now. What if Rui can't get back? Maybe there's more confidence internally, but the way Rui talked about his injury and the way JJ Redick has talked about it have not been encouraging. And that is a point now that is not only extremely accurate, but it's at the point where the Lakers are in a very not desperate spot because they have a ton of players who can kind of, in theory, replace what Rui Hachimura gave them in Dorian Finney-Smith being a guy who can play really good defense, which is, DFS is not going to replace what Rui Hachimura does. They're very different players in that way, albeit they're both, wings. DFS is great defensively, and he changes the game in that way. Rui Hachimura is great offensively, and he changes the game in that way. And paired together, they are a fantastic duo. But it's at the point now where, in order for the Lakers to be successful, you're going to need a little bit more than what Rui Hachimura has been giving you. And you can see here at the bottom, in the bottom tweet there from Clutch, and this was following one of the losses recently. Robert Horry came out and said, "We all know you can score. When he gets guys involved, he's much better. Telling Luka to make the extra pass." But also under that, Rui Hachimura shouldn't be playing at all in a singular regular season game and should sit out until the playoffs. So you have fans coming out and saying that he shouldn't be playing at all because of the poor performance. I'm willing to give him a bit more of a leash, especially with how good his season has been up to this point. But coming down the stretch, it's going to be a very interesting situation. And LeBron James came out today and spoke out on what the Lakers need to do to have success. And he said health. That's the most important. We are not in a position where we can afford anyone to go down. Luka, myself, and AR-15, we got to click at the same time. We have to be in tune with what we got to do every single night. My voice, Luka's plays, AR's play. JJ's not going to send us out there on a goose chase. He's going to make sure to give us exactly what we need. And for one, it's kind of cool to see LeBron start to include Austin Reaves into this now because obviously coming out of being a player that not a lot of fans thought was going to be as good as he is, to see him, in the same, getting this praise from LeBron is fantastic. But he's right, and you need health. And clearly Rui Hachimura doesn't have that right now to the degree that the Lakers need necessarily. They've lost a few games. They lost 4 in a row. So it's at a very interesting part, and hopefully they can start to, following, in tonight's game, really put some pressure on, everybody else, make everybody else step up, because at this point, the Lakers need to start winning ball games. Yes, the goal is to not fall into the playing game, but we saw Luka Doncic following, lost a couple nights ago, come out and say, even the playoffs aren't a given at this point. You have to go out and you have to play hard every single night, and they've been losing games with LeBron. They haven't won since LeBron returned, and it's an issue, but the bigger issue here is Rui Hachimura and his specific injury, and you can see here, on the flip side, on the positive note, LeBron came out and said, we have a good chance of making a good run with Luka. And that's the thing, right? At the end of the day, this team, regardless of how they finish the regular season, has a chance. You have the best player in the world in Luka Doncic and one of the best players in the world. I guess one of the best players in the world in Luka Doncic and LeBron James. You need to go out and you need to make the most of that, and seeing how crucial Rui Hachimura was to that, and then seeing him go down with an injury and be a little bit slow to come back. I mean, LeBron's been a little bit slow as well, but he's looked really good in his last game. And again, he's not... I still think there's another step LeBron can take as it pertains to how he's been playing since he returned from injury. He's still fantastic, especially at age 40. But Rui Hachimura has been really bad since returning offensively, in the sense of he's not getting as many opportunities, but he also looks a little bit more passive out there because of that injury. So let us know down below what your thoughts are on this. Things are going to get crazy. We're going to keep you up to date with all the latest news, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. Cheers.